there's breaking news, like figure it out, which is when there's no substitute to that, but like it would have been helpful to have kind of maybe a little guidance before if I'm paying $30,000 for it.
Hey, what's up, dude?
What's up? How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Sorry about last time. I had emailed, but I guess it didn't get through or whatnot. So
it's all good.
I do apologize for that.
No, I think, it was miscommunication between myself and my wife, actually. You emailed to her and she was downstairs working and like, so I didn't even go with like,
love how that happens, right? Yeah.
Right. So I didn't even go say something like, hey, do you know anything? I just was like, oh, so anyway, it's all good, man. I
apologize for that. Yeah, no worries at all. Thank you so much for the opportunity and stuff. Obviously you've had like great people on from like Maggie to like, just so many, Maggie Lindemann from like back in the day before she became like Maggie, like you were one of like the first to kind of like get her as she was like rolling up and stuff to just, Alec and stuff, Benjamin and stuff. So all the friends have been part of this. So I'm stoked to be a part of it as well.
No, man, I'm really excited to talk with you because you have a definitely different perspective on this whole thing than a lot of people I've chatted with. And I also come from radio. So
there you
go. To talk to you about that. I did alternative radio for 17 years before this podcast. So I'm excited, man. Well, yes. So this is about like, I guess, I don't know. Maybe we'll find out. We'll see.
We'll just roll with it. All right,
we'll just roll with it.
Yeah.
Cool, awesome, man. So where were you born and raised?
So I was born in Jersey. Are we kicking off now? Everything's good? Cool. Born in Jersey. So I grew up in Jersey, then went to Fordham University here in New York City now because I got into Syracuse, and Syracuse, of course, was like the broadcasting school. You know what I mean? Like it's the top one to get into. But then when I visited them, they were like, you can't intern until you're a junior. And I was, it's just part of their policy. And a couple other colleges I found out do have that. And I was kind of like bummed and turned off by that because I was coming in, like I was already doing some TV work and like helping out like different music labels and like running street teams when I was in high school for like various labels and stuff. So I was like, why would you not want to push your students and like, to roll with these opportunities? Why, like if everybody's becoming an intern by junior year, then it's more competitive, obviously. So, but I was bummed out. I was like, what is that? So I ended up going to Fordham University, great school, obviously still like top 5, I think like 5 or 4 as far as like broadcasting goes. And I was able to kind of like meet with like the communications department head and all that kind of stuff. And they kind of had the same reasoning that you had to be a junior, but I was able to at least negotiate with them. And I was taking junior courses as a freshman in order to get those like internship credits and whatnot.
Cool. Yeah.
But it worked out. I was by second semester, I was interning for ABC News, like that's on the air. Yeah. And like ABC radio. And I was like on air and producing and all that stuff. And I could only imagine like if I waited to junior year, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well now you're up against 10,000 other people rather than like being a freshman and like kind of just standing out. So it was always Jersey and New York City kind of tri-state person, broadcast here in New York City now, though, stayed here throughout the pandemic. And it's we got, was able to survive that. So hopefully it's all easier now.
So, that's incredible. Yeah, I think internships are like that's the only reason why I was able to get into radio. I mean, you can't just throw an email to somebody or, I graduated high school in 2003. So like at that point, like emailing people was a big, but like you could still, it was very hard to get into any of those career paths. I mean, your email probably just went to some dump bucket, you know what I mean? So like I had to go through, I knew somebody who, knew somebody at the radio station. So I got an internship there, and that's the only reason why I got my foot in the door. And then you meet people obviously and go that way. But if it's not for those opportunities, it's so hard. It's so hard.
It's actually, looking back, it's frustrating. I've done a couple of hits on this and like segments on it. The fact that I feel, is it going to happen? Probably not anytime soon, but like, not that we need an overhaul, but like our whole education system, like that's probably for me, it's for a different thing, like student loans and student debt. Like the fact that like, even in college, like some of those courses, like intro to like, I understand it to an extent where it's like, you need to learn the history of stuff, but like, honestly, I feel like a lot of these courses in college courses, you're paying a ton of money, and everything I learned on the actual job. Like I didn't like, of course, like, if it's speaking or delivery and like speech, they can help you with that, and like how to read prompter and stuff like that for certain courses. But other ones, like, you spend the first 6 weeks, 8 weeks of like learning about like the origins of radio. It's like, help us like now, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
And like so many of those courses is the same. It's like, no, tell me about like digital editing or like what is happening right now, rather than learning about stuff that, like, not saying it doesn't matter, because you do want to see how like it's evolved, and so you don't make those same mistakes and stuff. But like some of the stuff, like it's almost like that could be done in 2 days rather than 2 weeks. And it's like, I'm spending so much money, especially from like a communications field or like any of those tech fields where it's just like constantly evolving and constantly changing. It's I look back and I'm just like, damn, like, when I have kids and stuff, it's like, hopefully like it's changed a bit where you're spending that much money. Like, you want to be able to learn stuff that, a lot of everything I've learned, I kind of had to learn on the fly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Or
like,
you learn it at the job, because
like shit went bad at work, and it's just like, well, somebody's got to hop on, or like, hey, we need this,
figure it out.
There's breaking news, like figure it out, which is when there's no substitute to that. But like, it would have been helpful to have kind of maybe a little guidance before, if I'm paying $30,000 for it,
Right. No, I completely agree. I think a lot of it too is like, they want, I don't know, do companies or does the school just want to try to weed people out if you don't want to take all the math classes? Like I went into college thinking, okay, I want to be in communications, I want to do broadcasting.
Totally.
So I suck at science, I suck at math. So I go to the counselor, what can I do to like avoid those classes? Oh, well, communications is perfect. But then I still have to take those courses, like, to a certain extent. I'm like, I'm never going to use this in what I want to do. I mean, other people will, but I'm not.
My favorite was same thing. They gave us like a core curriculum that we had to take every single year. And the one year was like intro to astronomy. And I was like, let me just do that, because I was like, I'm in college, like I'll drink some beer, like I'll drink some beers and look at the sky. Like, that sounds awesome. Sure. Not realizing that intro to astronomy literally was just like math and like eclipses and like doing stuff. I was like, I thought we were just gonna like stare at the sky.
Right. I thought I was gonna learn about some stars, and
it was like one of the I thought it was like one of the hardest courses ever. I was like, what am I? There's all like, it was math. I was like, I don't want to do math. Like, that's why I'm in broadcasting. Very.
Did you go in knowing that you wanted to? Because obviously you do music stuff. Was that the focus? Because I know you. If you get into ABC and then you have to do the news stuff, like I worked for CBS News in San Francisco, like on the radio side, because I worked on the alternative station, but it was really hard to be like a full-time guy there. Of course, and they were hiring, assistant producers on the news side. So it's like, oh, well, I guess I'll go up to the 5th floor, do some news, come back down and do what I needed to do for the alternative station. But is that kind of how you got involved? Is that why you got involved in that way?
It's kind of, I knew I just wanted to be on TV. It's a funny story. So when I was a sophomore in high school, I was a huge Blink-182 fan. Like, grew up in the pop punk scene. Like,
same here. We will relate on this. I grew up in Poway. So
boom, there you go. So like, I grew up with all the like, middle school and everything. Drive-Thru Records was like becoming bigger and bigger. And there was this band Midtown that was starting to form in New Jersey. And my dad actually taught one of the guitarists my dad was a science teacher and taught him in high school. He was like, oh, my son's starting to pick up guitar. And he, like, the student went up to him after, was like, hey, like, I play guitar in like this band and stuff. Like, let me know, like, if he wants lessons, like, for pay me like a little extra bucks and stuff. So I had the guitarist from Midtown as one of my guitar teachers.
That's rad.
And then they're like, then they like would be on like K-Rock in New York at like midnight on a Sunday on Matt Pinfield show. And I'd be bragging to my friends, like, oh, that's my guy, let's go. Like, just started going to all those local like fire hall shows and like mall shows and just like, parking lot shows, just with all that, like those pop punk bands. And then I saw like that really got me into that kind of scene. And then I just became a huge Blink fan. And MTV had a casting call when I was a sophomore. It was taking place in New York City, and it was for a show called Becoming. And like they had like Becoming NSYNC and Becoming like O-Town.
They did Becoming Blink-182 is one.
Yeah. So I told my mom, and she drove me into the city. Now, even though we lived in Jersey, we didn't go to the city too much unless it was like for something like whatever. And my mom and one of her friends like drove me in on a Saturday morning to go to this. I had the Dickies shorts, the Atticus hat on. I brought the Fender strap, the high like tube socks and stuff. You know what I mean? That like went up to the bottom of the things, and, like had the Atticus shirt on, and just like, you know, I was all blinked out. Tom was always my favorite. And it was me versus like 350 plus other people. And I ended up winning that. So I won the casting call as a sophomore, and like everybody else was over 18. And then I had to get everything, all the forms signed and all that stuff. So it was a whole competition show. It was 3 groups of 3 people, all like kind of going against each other in different like, kind of different events and different challenges. And then ultimately it was a full special that aired, and I ended up winning that when I was just a sophomore in high school. And like a bunch of my friends like came into the city for the day for the taping and stuff. So that was like kind of my first feel of the TV side of stuff, because I was always into music. And like one of the judges was like Chris Georgian, who was part of Rick DeVoe management. So he managed Blink, Newfound Glory. And then like
Rick DeVoe is Unwritten Law, all those bands.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So like he was under Rick. So like that was also like such a huge connection there, because all of a sudden it's like, well, I already knew Newfound because of like the Drive Thru Records days and the Midtown days years earlier. And like I'd seen Newfound for years when they came through. And now here's the manager and like the Blink connection, and just really get me involved from the industry aspect. But I knew from that point on, like I wanted to do TV. The fact that I won as a, sophomore and junior in high school, getting that TV thing. And then a lot of those casting people ended up, a lot of the casting people in TV are kind of like freelance, or they hop around. Like nobody stays at the same place at all for a while. Much music had just moved here from Canada. So it was much music. Cool. And they started doing these bands and stuff because that pop punk scene was blowing up. So they had opportunities. So when I was a senior in high school, this was before even college, I would go in for either like casting calls, or also for their live shows to be like in the audience, or to do like, or I'd be like on a microphone and like ask questions and kind of like almost like try to get some early VJ work there as a senior in high school. So I always knew like I wanted to do this, and music was always a passion, but like I was a huge sports fan. So even when I was in college, like I was doing the ABC stuff as an internship, but then I was still on air. As a sophomore in college, I was covering the Yankees for our station because we were based in New York City. So I've always been like, this is what I wanted to do, and like just kind of like set the bar. And then sophomore year of college, when I started the Gunz Show as well, I just sent a blank email to Adobe Radio, because I saw that they were doing kind of like this online internet radio at the time, because there was already no like iTunes or anything like that, or maybe it was just starting, but there was definitely like no podcasts.
Right. What year was
live
this?
Online radio. 6, 7, like it was.
That's okay.
6, 7, 8. Maybe like 8.
The first full-time job I had was on an online radio station, like a street.
Probably around that like 8.
Yeah, it was 07, I think, when I did it. Yeah, that's crazy.
But there was like no podcast, so it was like and like the people are like, you look at how far podcasts and everything has evolved. It's like in the beginning, I used to have to hold my cell phone up and ask a question, and then put the earpiece to the microphone
to catch the
get
audio.
the answer get the answer from the guest. It was so bootleg. So for all those assholes that are like, oh, Gunz, like what's the Gunz? Like, fuck you. Been in this shit. I've been in this game for a minute, yo. Like,
sure.
In a minute, and paid my dues. Wasn't easy. People think it's just like, oh yeah, it's just a podcast, because everyone's the podcast market is so much right now. But how do you like stand out? It's like, like you guys I've done a tremendous job and are able to have your thing and able to be like tremendous bands and stuff. And like everyone's trying to figure out like what to do right now. But if you're just, I feel like especially with like FM and like certain things that are happening now in media, it's like everybody, it's like, oh, if you're on air, you have to have a podcast. It's like, I feel a lot of those podcasts last 3 months and then they're done because nobody realizes how hard it is. And
it's
also
so much work. It's so much work.
And to to get any sort of traction now, it's like, you have to stand out and have a very unique kind of perspective, or have been doing it for a good amount of years, rather than like starting up something now. Because it seems like my whole Twitter feed is just people with like video podcasts or something. And listen, to each their own. Everybody can do it, whether it's a passion project, or like whether you're actually pursuing it. But it is for just because like you're part on air. I don't think, not you personally, but like it seems like everybody does. And like, it's like there's so many different podcasts, even for like FM stations. It's like You're just diluting your market. You're just diluting your market. It doesn't make sense. Like use those resources elsewhere. Like straight up, like
what you're saying.
Nobody wins when it's something like that. It's like use those means and people's time in a better way, because otherwise, if you go to that website and there's 20 different podcasts for every single one of your things, and the weather person's got one, it's like your traffic, like I said, if people want to do it, that's all good. But like, you're just making it harder for those that like are talented to break through, even on your own staff. If all of a sudden, like you're like spreading the resources across. And that's my opinion.
No. I agree with you 10 million %. What's funny is like I was on, like I said, terrestrial radio in San Diego. I was on their alternative station. There was a hot second that they wanted all the DJs to do podcasts. So I pitched this idea of my show that I'm doing currently. And this was 2017. I think towards the end of 2017. They were like, no, that's too up the middle. We don't want to do anything with music. I'm like, okay, we're a music station. We don't want to do anything with music. Yeah, no, our music director is going to do a food show, and then we're doing a travel show. And I'm like, okay, why would you go to a music person to learn about what they like to eat anyway? I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. Well, and then so I was like, well, I'm going to do this anyway. And so I had them sign over all this paperwork saying like, I own this. And they're basically like, okay, don't poach our artists. I'm like, perfect. And then they did like I said, or like you just said, it was like for 2 weeks or one season, and then it went away. And then they didn't want anything to do with it. And then, 2 years later, the pandemic
still going
hits.
You're still going strong though, because
I just kept doing it. And I'm like, and that was what I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. It's cool to like be on the radio, but it was like the radio's doing this as podcasts are doing this. Yeah. It was like, it was just such a wild situation to be in and kind of watch the whole thing. And then when the pandemic hit, like the radio station just collapsed. Like there was no one's driving around. So no one's, the car dealerships aren't throwing money at anything.
Yeah, no, right. I mean, you look at even like I'm on Sirius XM and do like sports stuff over there and more. And it's just like, even Sirius, no one was driving, and not as many people were driving. So yeah, I mean, the broadcast industry definitely got hurt too across the board.
But I feel like at least with Sirius though, because you're subscription based, people are paying into it, so they're not worried too much about
compared
ads.
to local, like we had to sell boilers for ad revenue. No one's buying the boiler. You know what I mean?
That's like, where we were at. So then
for FM and AM,
collections crashing, and then then artists are sitting around doing nothing, so they're not promoting new music. Like no one's like there's no radio guy going to the different stations trying to, get you to play the new whatever record, because they're not doing anything.
One of the things that I found was that I was, obviously not appreciative of anything with the pandemic, but I was fortunate in the fact that because I'd already been doing the Gunz Show and like the podcast and that kind of stuff, and have been like kind of doing some live streams leading up to that, the pandemic, was that once shit hit the fan and obviously everything started shutting down, it's a lot of those terrestrial radios didn't know what to do and did not have the capabilities or just even the tech standpoint of what to do with all our jocks and our talent home. Mm-hmm. And it took them a while to figure out what the heck to do. Now, me, it was a flawless transition because I was already doing this at home. So if anything, it was just like nothing really had changed. And if anything, I was just able to even get larger artists because everybody was home. And I really wanted to I felt it was very important for like the fans to be able to still talk to the artists and the artists still talk to the fans, because everyone was going through it. Obviously, like everyone was going through just the worst mental state anybody could ever have, being stuck inside literally and not being able to do anything. So I really if anything, I just worked harder. I was even doing more bands and more shows and episodes because I really wanted it to keep that communication going, because music is always that outlet and people were so excited for some of these. You think about Rage Against the Machine was touring for the first time in forever. My Chemical Romance was back for the first time ever. And then none of these shows happened. Or for all those bands that delayed putting out their albums. But then 3 months into the pandemic, since none of us knew how long it was going to be, it's like, well, they're like, we've already sound this for a year. Like, let's just put it out. Hopefully we can tour on it. And then of course they didn't. So I felt it was so important on the Gunz Show to be able to make sure people knew about these songs and about these albums that were put out. And then I did that. And then I kind of also, I saw the writing on the wall that, if you remember in the pandemic, the early days, my whole entire, I'm sure yours was too, my whole entire Insta story was just everybody, all my musician friends, just sitting on a couch,
live streaming and
but on the Insta stories, acoustic guitar. And it was obviously the most bootleg thing ever, but everyone was just like, oh, whatever. Like, oh, this is so great. We can see so-and-so play acoustic songs and like,
or you can see their house, right? Oh my gosh, Adam Lazara sitting on his, couch in his living room, and like that's where he lives. That's so cool. He's playing whatever. Your own disaster.
So that was all happening in the beginning, but then that quickly went away within 2 weeks because once again, everyone realized how difficult it was.
Yeah.
So so I reached out so I knew that live streams were going to happen. I felt like we were going to be in this a lot longer because New York got shut down first, and then it's like, well, we're shut down. Then that means 2 weeks later,
everything else did. It was
so an hour is going to be shut down. 2 weeks after that, then the middle of the country, like it wasn't going to end 2 weeks, which
it was kind of coming this way too, because it was like
Seattle, both sides,
went down, and then it was like this.
So I was like, we're going to be screwed here for a while. So I reached out to Twitch, and I was like, hey, I do this show, like do all this stuff, and I was like, I want to start doing, my show with a visual component to it, and reached out to Twitch, had a bunch of meetings and stuff. And then they made me, I became an affiliate, kind of proved what I was able to do, had like small pools perform live, and made a parade perform live and all that stuff, and interviews and all that stuff. And then became a Twitch partner. And I still am part of Twitch now because it was like the live stream, how you adapt. Now we were able to do that, but like, if you were like a terrestrial radio or something like that, I mean, you were just
no hope.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And terrestrial radio should have already been going the route of video components and online beforehand, and they were still kind of slow to get there. And I feel sorry. Like I knew radio was going down in the pandemic when a few friends of mine that were like super high up programmers at like some of the biggest stations in the country were losing their job. I'm like, you're going to get rid of this guy. This guy is San Francisco, and like he built this radio station to what it was. It was the writing was on the wall there. It was like, okay, they're just going to try to get anybody that will take $12 an hour to, do some like, oh, that was blah, blah, blah. Here's the new whatever record.
Right. Yeah.
Because at that point, they were just hemorrhaging money.
Yeah. And it is a shame. And like, even like, it just sucks. I feel bad for everybody who had to lose their job, or just the way the industry kind of has shifted. I mean, it's going to continue to shift. What's one of the most frustrating things I've found in my career is that a lot of bosses just want to protect their own jobs, and they don't want to take any chances. And that's why, like, when you can find like a media company or organization that's willing to it's not really even take chances, but to be able to have the foresight to see like what changes or like where like the industry might go. That like so many times like I would ask to do things, and like they would be like, no, like that's great, but no. And it's like, well, like there's one thing, it's not really changed because I kind of always just did things on my own anyway on the side, but like it would have been great to have like a company's backing and resources,
right?
Because a lot of what I said was going to happen ended up happening, or I was going to do anyway. It's like, well, you idiots, we could have done this together and gotten the ad share, share for it, because it's different when you have a sales team pushing for you rather than just me sending email trying to network and stuff. But I mean, listen, a lot of people are just trying to protect their own job. This is pre-pandemic. I'm talking to them 10 years ago,
right?
And it's just like. It's certain frustrating. I definitely lost out on some opportunities. I know for a fact, like, because I didn't even talk to other program directors, and they're like, they were shocked that so-and-so wouldn't allow me to do this when it literally would have helped their brand, my brand, and everything. And just gotten us more awareness. They were like fucking shocked. So
dude, like, it's an ego thing. I'm going to tell you right now, like everything you're saying is so, like, for me, it's so crazy because I feel like you were doing what I was trying to do. Like you were in the East Coast doing this, and I was on the West Coast doing this, because I had the same thing, man. I went to Warped Tour. This was, I don't know, like I hadn't been to Warped Tour in forever. And then I went because I saw Neck Deep was playing, and I knew a little, I'm not going to say like I was some like early fan of the band, but I knew who they were. And then they were starting to come up with In Bloom was like a hit that was starting, like it was a hit, but wasn't on like a terrestrial radio hit. Right. And like it started to kind of bubble up a little bit. Like some radio stations were playing it like overnight. And I was telling my program director, I'm like, dude, this band is like, going to do something. They're like pretty on the rise. And I'm like, I think this pop punk thing is going to happen. Go to Warped Tour. They had the biggest crowd, and they weren't even the headliners at the time. I can't remember who was headlining. And I come back, I'm like, dude, we need to do, I'm like, let me please do an hour emo show. I'm like, I will. And I presented him with all these bands, all these songs. I'm like, this would be super cool. Like, no one's doing this yet. And then he's like, no, shuts it down. Then this emo night thing happens. And that's becoming this gigantic thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, this is happening. We should, this is the time. We're going to strike. We're going to be this cool alternative station. We're going to be the one that's playing these rad records that no one else is touching. Right. No. And then now look, you have like, Avril Lavigne touring now. And then like even the new Black Bear record is like a pop punk album. You have Machine Gun Kelly things happening. And it's like, dude, you just missed such an opportunity to be like on the ground of all this things happening. And I just hear that when you're talking too, you're like, dude, like shake the guy. Like what is going on with you? Yeah. And they just want to protect their job. Because if you take a risk and it fails, then, then what they think that their job is done or whatever. Right. But anyway, so it's just so crazy to hear you talking. I'm like, I was just sitting seriously on the other side of the coast doing the exact same thing. Like, what the fuck is going on?
It's frustrating, man. Yeah. I mean, but we make our own, we make everything, we make it all work out the way that we possibly can. I just had to find other opportunities, but I just did what I wanted to do. But like I said, like, just on a different platform kind of thing, rather than like you could have been the station that people were checking out across the country, right. And just would have been like the premier destination for that kind of music. Frustrating that. Yeah, because they already had the brand, and then it's like, you know what I mean? Like to jump on something that was already a thing, and we're independent station, we weren't answering to Clear Channel or iHeart or whatever, and like. The thing is, and then you have to just do it yourself. You're like, all right, you guys don't know what you're doing. But, as guys like us didn't have that big umbrella platform to be pushing out to, a million people right away. You got to kind of build it up. But, it just takes the time. And like you said earlier, like everyone has a podcast now. Like everyone needs to have a podcast. And the amount of work that, guys like you and I like spend on these things, like that's why it works. It's not just because you spend 1 hour a day or, you do an interview and then you just go dick around to your house. Right. Yeah. the amount of work, like, from the booking, researching, curating, hosting aspect, audiograms, videograms afterward, just the promo material that goes into it, just everything. And like, I mean, it's just, there are people out there that just kind of throw it together and just like, all right, there you go. But like, but also like, just the emails, the back and forth, the booking, the, just trying to, be able to build up the legitimacy of it to the fact that so when you are pitching guests that they do say yes because of all the history and who you've been able to have on. Like it's definitely, because you always get like your stations will always, radio station will, a lot of times will be able to get those artists to an extent because it's just like they want
they already have a reach, they have a net. Yeah. So it's easier for them to go. It's for them to grab somebody because it's like, we have already a built-in audience of all these people driving around or whatever. But okay, so I want to go back because your story is so rad. So you are in high school, you're doing these things. A real quick question on the Blink-182 thing was that the one where they did like the whole like you got to be with them and they played their like a little show for you, or is this something totally different?
So that was there was one called Becoming and there was one called Wannabe. Ours was we did the first date video, so we didn't actually get to. We weren't actually with the actual. We weren't with Blink themselves. There was one I think they did. I think that was like the What's My Age Again one, but that was a different kind of concept of a show. I think that was just 3 people. Ours was like the competition show that it was, where it was 3 groups of 3 that competed. So we had to like. We had like a drum off against each other, like that kind of thing. And then we did the first date video. So we all dressed up in that kind of thing. And it was, and then played in that aspect. So we didn't actually meet the guys. I had like kind of like on the side, but it wasn't part of the actual episode. Right.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I remember an episode about that, but I think this is only when Eminent State came out and they did they did Adam's Song, and the guy there had some sob story about, suicide and all this stuff. Which is terrible, but they played the song for him, and I'm thinking, I don't remember you being that guy. Tried to be like, I look like Tommy at the lip ring and the whole thing. Yeah. So I was like, okay, but that's still so cool. So it was well, you said you worked with labels and you were doing like a street team thing. Like, were you ever in a band, like a touring band or anything like that?
Never toured, but I mean, I was in high school, and of course we were all playing. You know what I mean? But like, I realized that the odds of making it were just because I was kind of involved already with labels and stuff. With a lot of those local bands that were coming up. So it was like local labels, and then, some of them would get distribution deals into larger indie labels. And then and then eventually a lot of those labels got bought out by, the MCAs and the Geffens and stuff. But it was, I started in a band, played, realized that it wasn't fully going anywhere, and I care about music so much. I was like, okay, so how else can I better use my time rather than play for a year and realize it wasn't going to go anywhere. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, this sucks. So I saw the writing on the wall. It was like, the odds of making it were like 1 in 100,000, 200,000, even at that time, at least at that time. And so that's why I kind of just pivoted to, okay, well, rather than being a band myself, let me help out the bands that I love from the local scene and local tri-state area. So it was like, you're Taking Back Sundays, your Starting Lines, your,
brand news,
early November, The Movie Life, Saves the Day, Census Fail, Hidden in Plain View, like all those, like just bands that were from the Thursday, all those bands were from the scene, and that were all within like pretty much driving distance, within like an hour from where
wasn't My Chemical Romance from there too?
My Chem was there too. Yep. And that's kind of how I pivoted towards the label side and helping out with like street teams and purevolume.com pushing and mp3.com pushing. And of course I went to MySpace era. So yeah, I mean, I've literally done it. I've done a lot, like doing the in-stores, because a lot of that time was a lot of the in-store events. That was like how people would ever be able to, they weren't really doing like meet and greet packages or VIP packages like every band does now. At the time, it was like, if you want to meet a band, like either wait outside the venue for 10 hours beforehand, or you wait near their bus or whatnot, or their vans at the time.
Right.
Or you go and go to an in-store event and just, and see and see them there. So yeah,
that's so cool. Like, it's crazy to think about those days, being like in high school or early college and bands like the ones that you're naming. I remember them coming through town and they're playing these small venues, but they were like the venues, and you could hang out and meet them and see them around, and like how cool that was. But like at the time, like, Taking Back Sunday, seeing them to like with 30 people and be like meeting them, being like, oh my gosh, no one else would care really in the country at that point. But then to see where they are now, and it's like now they're, massive band. Like, I feel like, I don't know if that is lost anymore. Like, I guess, I don't know. I'm not that deep in the scene where it comes to like finding, like going to these shows with these smaller pockets. I feel like the music scene within the cities and aren't as tight knit and like doing that anymore. And maybe you see a different thing.
No, it's definitely changed to an extent where, I mean, there are certain bands that will like still like are friends with each other. Like obviously they're friends with each other and like kind of like might rise up like at the same time and like kind of like help each other, or they're always kind of like one-off touring with each other. But it's definitely changed with the fact that so many local venues have shut down, and also the fact where it's now with labels and just like the paradigm has shifted so much with TikTok. Like I've interviewed artists that have a ton of TikTok followers who still have never done a live show. And yet they have a ton of streams and all this stuff. And they've never even done a live show. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm stoked to do this show. And it like
for the first time, you're like,
and I'm like,
yeah,
that it's completely backwards to me. Like the way that the way that it was always kind of built up, where it's like, we're going to grind. Not saying that bands still don't do that, but it is a little bit, it's a little bit different, definitely. But just because I feel like those venues and those opportunities aren't there, or some bands can just, I feel like some of them get bigger faster, but not bigger in the fact that they're like on the radio big, but just kind of like all of a sudden, like then they're on they can get some of them get like a bandwagon or a bus faster, it seems. And then all of a sudden it's like that interaction of, hey, like we're at the venue and like, we're just chilling in the parking lot because we have nowhere to go because we only have a van. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that might be lost a little bit for some bands, not all of them, obviously, but for some, I feel like that interaction isn't there as much as it used to be.
And I think you made a great point with the TikTok thing, because I know when I was growing up, like to sell out was the worst thing you could possibly do. It's like, oh my gosh, like so-and-so signed to a major label, like that band sucks now. And like to think about that, that's all kids are striving to do now. It's like, no, I want 10 million people to follow me on TikTok. I want to sell out. I want to do this. And to kind of go that other way around. Like, I mean, radio hits nowadays, like it's a good big thing. You're getting paid from, you know, BMI and ASCAP, and then like obviously you're getting played at stations around the whole country. But like if you look at somebody like you said, or like Maggie Lindemann or whatever, she has a song that has like, you know, say near 1 billion plays. You'd never get that reach anywhere if you're played on every radio station in the whole world. It's like
get 1 billion plays, right?
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah,
or like you get a TikTok person to share your song or promote your band, and they have 100 million followers. That's more people than you would ever reach in any market across the whole.
How many people that's so many people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
If you get played in LA, like that's like, oh my gosh. And I think LA is like 12 million people, and you have somebody on TikTok that has 100 million followers. It's just like night and day.
Wild. Yeah, completely agree. It's chaos.
And I interviewed Powfu when he was like really like, he had that one song, you know, Coffee in My Head was like this thing that was happening, and it was right before the pandemic, and then he had all these shows booked, and then the pandemic hits and the song still starts, you know, it was one of the biggest hits at the time. And the guy he had never played a live show. He had one show booked, and then it got canceled. And I'm like, it was just crazy. And he had, you know, you have these big songs and these things that are happening, and then it kind of just goes off the wayside. Yeah, it's weird.
It's definitely, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the industry, because on one aspect, like a lot of these TikTokers, which is fine, like to each their own, like who am I to say you shouldn't do whatever. But like on one aspect, some of them do very well. Like, Jaden is crushing it right now.
Oh yeah.
Jaden's awesome. And like, I saw him a couple of weeks ago here in the city, and I got there. I did press beforehand, so I had to get there early. And just like say, I think I got there like say 4:00, and doors were like 7, and the line was massive around like 2 avenues, and that was off that was off for just like the meet and greet, and also like just like his meet and greet went hours for people to buy. So they did pay. So like on that aspect, it's like, all right, well, listen, the labels you gambled correctly for certain artists like that, because it did pay off. But some of these other ones, it's like, I have no idea if these people are going to go out and actually people are going to show up to see them, maybe to an extent, but you got to feel like that TikTok audience is going to continue to move on. Just like everything moved on, just like everybody moved out of the boy band era. And you know what I mean? That, the people, like everything's like within 2 years, or like 2 to 3 years now, it's like, it just, I don't know. My advice to artists would just be like, keep investing in yourself, and don't rely on anything or anybody else, because like it can turn very quickly. Like, yeah, exactly. And especially with this, I don't know if labels know what to do with the TikTok aspect. I feel like a lot of people are just gonna get burned.
Dude.
By this.
Yeah.
And I think it's already possibly even starting to happen. Yeah.
Right. I was gonna say, it's kind of coming back to the they'll sign a band and then put a bunch of money into them and then shelve them because the record sucks or they don't like the record. Yeah. And then now it's like, okay, now you owe me all this money.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
tell us all this time.
Right. Exactly. But now it's like, okay, you have one hit. We're going to buy that hit from you, and we're going to start making all the money off the hit. And then we're going to give you advance, and then you got to make another one. If it doesn't happen, then okay, now you owe me money. It's like, now they're just grabbing them. Now there's like a track record right away. Like there's data. Okay, there's data here. Take it, and that is. Well, you said you talked to Jaden. I'm a fan of his, but I'm really good friends with his drummer, who's Tosh Peterson.
Love Tosh.
And I think you had him on your show.
Tosh is my guy. Yo, Tosh is great, dude. He is going to be. I don't like being like, oh, he's the next so-and-so, dude. All I can say is he is one of the best fucking drummers.
He is best.
So good, and he's so young, and he's just gonna get better. And even when I had him on, I had him on like a week and a half ago. He like comes to the interview, he's just dripping with sweat. He's like, I was just there practicing for like 2 hours. Like, you know how many of my band friends aren't practicing all the time when they get off tour? Like when they're home, like a lot of them like might not pick up a guitar for like 3 months. And then this was like 5 days after he was home for tour. He's just fucking playing for hours upon hours upon hours. And just like, he's like, I'm testing out this new thing that I kind of created, and like, this kind of beat and like, this like inspiration, like that he heard, and he wanted to like kind of, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like that needs to be commended. That needs to be respected. Like that's so rad. And like, he needs he's gonna be fucking massive, dude.
I'm so happy for the guy. The first time I met him, he was playing drums for Carly Hansen. They're opening up for Bad Sons, and I watched him, and I'm like, this guy's the best drummer I've ever seen. It was like when I saw Travis Barker for the first time when he joined Blink or was playing with Blink before, when Raynor was after he left the band. I'm like, okay, this band just went to another level. And like seeing him, I'm like, I told him, I'm like, dude, that's what I see. And then he started playing with all these people after the fact. I'm like, and I've stayed great friends with him and his family and everything else. But yeah, I saw he was on your show. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I love seeing Tosh
he's
everywhere.
Such a nice dude as well. Yeah. But even that, like that's awesome. Cause like, that is like the next wave of, like musicians, you know what I mean? Like, and like people that are going to like, he is going to be like, he's already collaborating with a lot of different artists, and like that's so cool to see.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to talk to you now. I've already taken up way too much of your time, but
it's all good. Yeah.
I want to know about this Emo Millionaire thing. I think that's so rad. I follow it and watch like the questions and stuff. I think it's really rad.
We're definitely building it. It's so. Here's the thing. What everybody loves trivia. Like everybody loves trivia. All right. And obviously this emo resurgence is happening, although for some of us, we never left it to begin with, but now like it is becoming popular once again. So I was like, okay, so how do I combine these two? And so essentially Who Wants to Be an Emo Millionaire is it's emo music trivia, and it features some of your favorite bands as contestants. So everybody from like, we've had the Maine to Simple Plan to.
Yeah, I saw the Simple Plan one.
Bayside, Senses Failed. It's like the Somerset to, so like Travis McCoy from Gym Class Heroes, to Travis Clark, We the Kings, to Travis Mills from Girlfriends. To,
I saw that you just had him on. He's a great dude.
We're gonna get like Feldman on, and like hopefully like Hoppus and like Pete Wentz and stuff. Like all the homies, trying to get them on the show soon, hopefully. And it's gonna be. I have no doubt that's all gonna be massive. And just from the conversations I'm having, we're going to be doing a live aspect of it. Done a couple live kind of test runs here in New York City where fans can compete against their artists or some of their favorite artists. And then even in addition to that, we're starting to do something in the city and then even branching out beyond that, where it's like three contestants against each other just from being, just from showing up at the bar or the venue or wherever we're doing it at. So what it is, it can be old school questions to like modern day questions, to things like what's Machine Gun Kelly's real first name, and like some people know, a lot of people some people don't know whatsoever, to what was Blink-182's DVD name, to then like with the artists themselves, I always ask an artist a throwback to them. So it might be like we had Simple Plan on and I had Pierre on, the lead singer, and I was like, what was the shirt that you wore on the cover of your second album? And he's like, so then you're looking at them and like, they're like, this is 12, 14 years ago. Or like, they're like, what the fuck? Or like, you opened with this song in 2013. What was it? And bands like, I don't remember anything from that era. You know what I mean? Like, right. It's so funny because it airs live on Twitch. So fans are watching. A lot of them are like, oh my God, how do you not know that? Or like, how do you not know the lyric to this obscure song, when like the diehard fans will know? So it's called Who Wants to Be an Emo Millionaire? It airs live on Twitch. So it's twitch.tv/The Gunz Show every Tuesday and Thursday. But sometimes it's like there's a lot of bands that want to do it that week. We'll just do it a lot. So the best thing to do is for people to like subscribe and follow there. But it does go into the podcast afterwards, which is just The Gunz Show. And it's awesome, man. Like it's so much fun because it combines like old memories with bands and bands like, and then like we do it during the interviews. The bands are like, I'll be like, you toured with this band, the name of this tour was so-and-so, and name the bands that you toured with. And they're like, oh, like, let me try and remember. And then like, they'll tell stories about like what it was, or like what their favorite venue was at this time, or like, oh, I remember like that Halloween, like all the bands dressed up as this, and it was chaos and it was wild. Like just cool stories that you're getting based on these trivia questions that are already bringing people in, or it's like, trivia about like, say like something about like Dashboard Confessional and what his band was beforehand. And then it's like, oh, well, do you know Dashboard? And then a lot of times the bands will have stories about like being a huge fan of them and then like meeting him or like touring with them, or him like coming up to them and be like, yo, that's awesome. Or like, I remember like I had Armor for Sleep a couple of weeks ago, and that we were talking about like Good Charlotte and stuff. And I remember it was probably like 16 years ago when so Good Charlotte was kind of like had little things and like motivation songs like that. And like they went up to Armor at like one of the shows, and like Armor was like was like at the local stage, and they were like, yeah, Benji Joel came up and like, yo, you're starting to get some buzz, like congratulations. And for Armored for Sleep, they were like, holy fuck, like we haven't left the tri-state area. How does Benji Joel all the way in California like know who we are? So like, you know, so like you just hear those kind of stories. It's so much fun. And like the Emo Millionaire gives a game concept. So like if a band doesn't know the answer to the trivia, they can you can like, instead of phone a friend, you ask a fan that's in the chat.
That's rad.
And then if they get it right, then the audience member will get like an autographed vinyl, or will get, you know, a guest list, or, you know, whatever it might be. So like there are some like prizes in that way, or like $50 gift card to like for Visa gift card or some stuff like that. And like it's so like it does have that game atmosphere in addition to the trivia aspect, but it's so much fucking fun. And it's Who Wants to Be an Emo Millionaire. The socials are all just Emo Millionaire, and then but it is like it's such an emo music trivia to another extent. And we're doing live stuff. Like I know I'm doing some stuff in Nashville with it. I think
really that's right. I moved to Nashville recently. I want to come.
I was just there for last week. It's wild. Yeah.
What?
Oh my God.
Okay.
Yeah. I just DJ'd Emo Night on Friday there, and then Saturday I did a disco night at Brooklyn Bowl there. It was like
did you really?
Yeah, 850 people, and I did a bunch of meetings and stuff. But I am going to be doing it in Nashville, flying down and doing it like down there, and then also LA I'm doing it at, and then we've got more in New York City. So yeah, it's going to be fucking wild.
That's so cool. That is so cool. What was it like? Was there anyone that you had on and like there was a question that you like I guess what like was there somebody?
A lot of times they don't get it. A lot of times they have no idea. A lot of times they have no idea what the answers are.
Was there one person that you can remember that they were like, whoa, like, you know, they're like, I don't remember like any of this shit.
Well, like I had Bayside on it. I was like, what was track 4 on your debut album? And that one had like Devotion Desire. He had no, Anthony was like, he was like, I have no fucking recollection. I had Hot Shell Ray on, and I was like, what's your third song on that album? He's like, honestly, dude, he's like, I don't know if I ever even looked at the back of that CD. He's like, all I remember is just what our set list was. Cause he's like, we were
based
doing so
off
many
the
radio
record.
shows.
Yeah.
He's like, all I remember is just playing what was on the set. He goes, I have no idea what it was on the actual album. So like you had the stuff like that, or also like you know, like people have like Travis Clark is notorious for not knowing lyrics to his own song, so he messed that one up to like Somerset. I was like, I asked Brian, I was like, what song do you think that you've played the most? And he got that one wrong. It's kind of funny because he's like, oh shit, I forgot about that whole entire year and how much we were on the road that year. And that's probably why so-and-so that song got up. To other things, like a lot of people don't know Machine Gun Kelly's real name. I had somebody think that it was legitimately Machine, that they switched it legally. Like,
oh really? It's funny you said that, and I'm like, I can't remember. I know it's I can't remember his name off top. I like totally lost it when you were talking.
Yeah,
so now I have to Google it.
Yeah, it's for those that it's Colson. But
like, that's what it was, Colson.
But I'll put options up there. So like sometimes some of the questions will have options with it. So I'll say Colson, but I'll say Colton. So some people are like, well, Colton's more of a name than Colson. So a lot of them will say Colton, but if it's really Colson, then somebody said Machine, or like so all sorts of, and then like some questions people, you just have to like kind of adapt to like what era they were from. And then like some people, it's like, you know, some people don't know Scott Rayner's last name. You know, like, name the last name of the original drummer blank, you know, the name of the original drummer to blank, to just other things like Panic at the Disco questions, My Chem questions, like Katy Perry playing Warped Tour questions. Nobody remembers her doing that really. So it's so much fun. Like, and then like, it's so much fun. Like literally just like all of these things that you're thinking of right now, like you're just like, and then it's like, you know, I do things like, don't I really have to do anything with emo, but it's like, hey there, Delilah, finish the lyric. What's it like in Salt Lake City, New York City?
Okay.
You know what I mean? And like some people are like, oh shit, how does that song even go? You know, like things like that. So it's fun. It's so much fun, actually.
Dude, that is so cool. Yeah. I think that's such a creative idea. Before I let you go, I want to see if you can give me the answer, because I was going through you'll post a question, then like people will answer, and you haven't come back and said what it really was. So you asked the Atari's question, what was their hit before Boys of Summer? I said in this diary just because I figured that was the one that hit the radio, but was it San Dimas? Because what was the hit? Does the hit come to what is the hit that is on the MTV or the radio, or was the? Well,
I mean, the OG song was always San Dimas, but the hit that I meant with that, because it was Boys of Summer, so it was radio-esque.
So in this diary.
In this diary,
Okay,
no, in this diary was right,
Okay.
But a lot of people thought, so that one was in this diary,
Okay, so I was just checking, and then the other one I want to know the answer to is the band gives you a soundtrack to listen to when visiting a coffee shop.
Coffee Shop Soundtrack, All Time Low. I have a song called Coffee Shop Soundtrack.
So okay, I would have got that one wrong because I was thinking Broadside because they have that song.
There are a couple different Fridays Tickets Kids have a song called Coffee Shop, but when it was soundtrack for visiting a coffee,
that made more sense now. Okay.
And then, the other one that a lot of people stumped was this band collaborated with Taylor Swift back in like whatever year, 2007 or whatnot. And it was
I know that one. Boys Like Girls.
Boys Like Girls. Two Become One. Yeah, but a lot of people forgot about that. They're just like, what the fuck? Who was that? Yeah. So, so it's a lot of fun. Yeah, and like we mix and match. Or like. Yeah, I mean, so we're rolling out the daily like trivia ones on TikTok and on Instagram and all across the socials, which is the Gunz Show as well as Emo Millionaire. So those are a lot of fun. So yeah, we're balling out. Yeah, we're balling.
I love it.
Let's go. It's fun. And then of course interviewing everybody. This like everybody, just everybody. Like I said, we're going from 21 Pilots to everybody we're having on the Gunz Show. It's gonna be fucking sick. Mod,
that's cool.
Feldman, like everybody, we're gonna fucking crush it. Yeah.
I just had Mod on. He's so cool, dude. He's such a cool dude. So with the Gunz Show, is it all talk based? No, you're not playing records.
Yeah, no. So I debut a ton of albums. I play a ton. I play music and everything like that. Obviously, so it's a live show on Wednesdays and Sundays, not podcast form. Unless it's the band themselves, just because of the rights and regulations, I can only play the band's thing on the actual podcast. But when you listen live, it's straight music. It's me curating the playlist. It's me doing stuff.
That's what I was going to see how you were able to do that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's every Wednesday and Sunday. It's on Adobe Radio, which is a 24-hour streaming network to begin with. Which has like even today, I was doing voice tracks for like Good Charlotte, Little Things into a song by The Maine into Under Oath, Numb we played today, like a really good mix of things because you're not getting on like any terrestrial radio out there whatsoever. So
that's killer,
really
man.
Cool stuff. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time, dude. This is
this is awesome, and just even knowing like your history and stuff, man, that's so rad. And like I didn't even know you were in Nashville, so we'll definitely hang. I'm back there in a couple weeks. I would love
to see. Yeah, dude, that would be so much fun to hang out because
you gotta come to. DJ said I do the Emo Night Brooklyns. We just did them on Friday. It was like 700 people, and then the disco night was even bigger that I did on Saturday.
If I would have known you were DJing that, I would have been there, dude. Because I would have guessed this,
man. Yeah, it would have been fucking sick. So next time, I'm back in a couple weeks, so we got to do that for sure. Yeah,
I'd love to hang. Last question. I want to. Well, you kind of answered it already, but do you have any advice for like, I guess instead of aspiring artists would work, but people trying to do this podcast thing, like, do you have any advice to creatives?
Grind. Look at what other people are doing. Don't steal their ideas, but that doesn't mean you can't be, you can kind of see how they're doing, especially in the TikTok game, because the other thing would be like, make sure you have a TikTok, because even though it's so frustrating and like trying to figure out how to make it work and stuff, you want to be on it. You want to make sure that you're on the platforms that are rising right now. And I went on Instagram. What the fuck did Instagram do? Where now it's like, I don't even follow half these accounts that I'm scrolling through. They're all just like suggested accounts. And I'm like, where are my friends? Like, so something like that is just,
suggested account.
Over and over. And I'm like, what is happening here? So the algorithm is our enemy, but we need to make it our friend. So you got to do everything you can to get the algorithm on your side. And, or just be on as many different platforms as you possibly can, because you never know which one can hit for you. Just grind it out. Like I said, if you're the podcast market is so oversaturated right now that it's what can make you stand out from somebody else if you don't have like the years of experience like you have yourself, for that your show has, right? That we've just done right now to, with the connections, with the relationships already built in. It's like, so how do you do that? It's just network, just grind, check out other platforms. Like I know Twitch is starting to do a lot more. That was something that for years I just thought was a video game platform. And then now they are doing a lot more music, and like Rolling Stone has a channel, and like I have my channel up there, and maybe people can kind of just get in on that aspect. Or there's just, don't ever let anybody say no. Like we've mentioned, like bosses can be the absolute worse and kind of hinder your growth and development, but don't allow that to happen. Just fucking make shit happen. Like what I did. Let's go. I'm on fucking TV. I'm on the show. I'm fucking Emo Millionaire, the Gunz Show, interviewing all my heroes, all my favorite bands I was like on first name basis with, that like when I was growing up, I was the one waiting for hours like outside before and after a venue trying to say what up to them. And now they're on my show like regularly. Like that all just came from working my ass off. I wasn't into anything. Both my parents were teachers growing up. So like, I just did it all, you know what I mean? So like, you can just fucking make it happen. Just make it happen. It's not easy. And don't get frustrated, although it's very easy to get frustrated, but that will just bum you out. So try not to make that happen. Try to just better yourself.